Announcement. Kindly remain on mute. We are going to begin our webinar shortly. Kindly remain on mute. We are going to begin our webinar shortly. Kindly remain on mute. We are going to begin our webinar shortly. Good morning, respected Principal, Father Rohan D. Almeida, Honorable Chief Guest, and the resource person for today, Dr. Sandra Misquith, teachers, students, parents, and all those who are partaking in this webinar. A warm welcome to everyone for the Sciplore the annual science exhibition of St. Joseph School, CBSE. Kindly remain on mute. Whatever you're doing, that which makes you feel most alive, that is where God is, says St. Ignatius of Loyola. It is the mark of our Jesuit tradition to invoke God's blessings at the beginning of an important event. I invite our school choir to invoke God's blessings. With grateful heart, we like to thank our judges for their generosity, time, and dedication, which made it possible for us to reward our students for their creative efforts. Now, let's have a glimpse of our judges who were the part of this Sciplore Journey 2020. Dear students, you are the chief guest for today. You are the ones because of whom we are having this special event. Dr. Radhakrishnan has rightly said, science has achieved more for the emancipation of masses than the wisdom of sages. It is the only subject which has brought a revolutionary change in our lives from its antiquity. Science is truly transforming and inspiring. It is the time now to unveil the innovative creation of our students in this science exhibition through the display of collage followed by video presentation of few creative experiments and models.
Play it now.
We will begin our webinar now on the topic Science for Us. If you have any questions, kindly utilize the chat window. We will have question and answer session at the end of the webinar. I invite our principal, Father Rohan de Almeida, to say a few words before we begin our webinar.
A very good morning to one and all. On behalf of Team St. Joseph's School CBSE, I share a sense of pride and great pleasure in welcoming all our participants to the virtual science exhibition Sciplore. Henrik Rohrer has a great quotation on science. He says science means constantly walking a tightrope between blind faith and curiosity, between expertise and creativity, between bias and openness, between experience and epiphany, between ambition and passion, and between arrogance and conviction. In short, between an old today and a new tomorrow. Yes, dear friends, science is one of the most important subjects students study because it develops their critical thinking skills. Science has always proved to be a blessing to all of us. It always reveals a new truth, a new discovery, and an unknown reality. In our day-to-day life, we do a lot of activities, and these experiences tell us that we and science are made for each other. But sometimes we fail to understand the importance of science in our day-to-day life. Science offers the answers to various questions we ask out of curiosity. Today, as human beings, we have lots of challenges to face. We are amidst the greatest challenge, that is COVID-19. Along with that, we have other challenges like pollution, global warming, use and misuse of natural resources, etc. Without understanding the cause of the problems, we cannot find out the exact solutions. And science exhibitions are the best ways to understand that science is the only subject which has brought revolutionary change from the antiquity. Our school, St. Joseph's CBSC, has been organizing these science exhibitions, Science Explore, Sciplore, every year, and our students come out with their innovative and creative models. And today is the time for us to see the innovative creations of our children. Sciplore aims at encouraging students to test their scientific skills of modeling, presentation, and reasoning. However, in the light of the restrictions due to COVID-19 pandemic this year, the school had intended to provide a virtual platform for students to present their talents. What is interesting is that in spite of the several hurdles and challenges, our teachers and students have achieved this goal and turned their dreams into a reality. I congratulate all the teachers and the students and also the parents. Students have achieved this goal and turned their dreams into reality. And you have witnessed the diligent efforts by the creative minds of our students just now in the video presentation. We further have an interesting session by a resource person, Dr. Sandra Misquith. So I request you all to sit back, partake in the event, and take back loads of motivation and fond memories. It is indeed a joy to have in our midst Miss Sandra Misquith, who is a renowned personality in the field of science. Although it is the early hours of a weekend, I see many participants, including parents, teachers, and students, have joined in this webinar. This is a great moral boost for all of us, especially the students. Before I close, I take this opportunity to thank all the parents and teachers who have helped the students to actively participate in this virtual science exhibition. I thank all the judges of these competitions for encouraging the students. I thank all the students who have participated in these exhibitions, and I congratulate all the winners who have won prizes for their innovative and creative ideas. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Father. The guest speaker for today is Dr. Sandra Misquith. I invite Ms. Jinsey to introduce Dr. Sandra.
A very good morning to all. It's my distinct privilege and honor to be given to introduce a distinguished guest speaker of today, Dr. Sandra Misquith, for webinar. She is one of the finest diamonds of St. Joseph's College, Bengaluru, serving as Associate Professor in Biochemistry. She has completed her BSc in Chemistry and MSc in Biochemistry from the University of Kolkata. She is a PhD holder in Chemistry from the University of Namur, Belgium in the year 1989. She has postdoctoral experience from Indian Institute of Science and worked as a visiting scientist with UK, USA and Belgium. She is well acquainted with different methods involved in biochemistry and molecular biology. She has participated in a number of science conferences and presented different scientific papers. She is a life member of the Third World Organization for Women in Science. She has achieved Young Scientist Award and received many grants. She has contributed 35 poster communications and different research papers. It's my great pleasure to welcome you, ma'am, for today's session. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
I request our resource person, Dr. Sandra Misquith, to take over the webinar on science for us. Over to you, Dr. Sandra.
Thank you, Anusha, and thank you, Jinsey, for that warm and introduction to me, some of which I think is beyond my thing. Good morning, everybody, especially my dear students, parents and management. I will just start by sharing my PPT with you. So give me a second. All right. So it's indeed a pleasure for me to be a part of this webinar and really an honor too, because though I've participated in webinars, it's been the in thing during this pandemic. And we've started online classes back in St. Joseph's College. It's the first time that I am a resource person for such an event. So I thank the management for this opportunity and also the pandemic for creating so many opportunities that we would not have dreamt of even a year ago. As the time is short, I thought, and the topic is so vast, and my audience is, from the point of view of age group, so vast, because I've been told I have the really little ones, and I've seen some of the work that they've done. It's amazing. And we have up to the 10th standard, all the parents. So I thought I would start with the video, What is Science? It's 5 minutes. It's just sit back and relax and see what science really is. So we just had a look at what science is. It's basically curiosity, a quest for knowing what's happening, for inventing, for endeavoring to better ourselves. Basically, it is us looking for answers. Science is not for us, science is us looking for answers, looking to bettering ourselves and our society, our earth and our universe. As Carl Jung said, as far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light of meaning in the darkness of mere being. They say that curiosity killed the cat. Has science succeeded in bringing tremendous good and with it a lot of bad? Yes, there are negative sides, and I'm going to blend my talk with the uses and abuses of science, but I liked this little cartoon that said, curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. And take it from me, dear friends, all you little ones, that exploring, investigating, inventing, I'm sure all of you who made models will agree with me that it did bring a lot of satisfaction. Starting from the hitting of two stones together to create a fire by the cavemen and their immense awe at this fire and recognition that it was some form of energy. And of course, as all women are skeptics, already back then, Our Lady realized that it could bring trouble. So there are abuses and uses. And from the caveman's hitting to our present day terrific ultra sophistication in technology, where we have artificial intelligence kind of trying to overtake our world in all aspects. I think some of you can see learning and hope that learning we can do away with. We can never do away with the human incentive, but definitely it's the human involvement that has made great strides, and we've come a long, long way from the time we learned to be Homo erectus to Homo sapiens, and now with the involvement of our intelligence in developing so much. Not only have we come a long way, we live a longer life. If you look at this graph, right from 1950, it projects to 2050, we live just about not even 40 years. We didn't even reach an average age span of 40 years, 1950. In 2020, it's already close to 68 to 70, which is a tremendous thing. And that is because of the various developments and lifestyle improvements that we are seeing. Definitely water quality has improved, our food resources. I think you would realize that during the pandemic, we had really sad situations of migrant workers who had no money, found themselves jobless and on the road. And then NGOs sprung up, governments sprung up, and reserves that were there of food was made available to all these people, so that very few would go hungry in this extreme situation. And that's all because of the agricultural revolutions within our own country. We've had the green and the white revolutions, right? In Punjab, we've seen the green revolution, and in Gujarat, we saw the advent of the white revolution. And we have so much milk today that you must be seeing the ads of Amul and Nandini, that every time they bring out a new product, that is because they need to, what should I say, use the milk. They've got to, they can't store much more than required, even if they make it into milk powder. Where we've seen probably the increase in living, the lifespan, is of course because of all this food and water and the tremendous leaps and bounds in which medical health has improved. You know, things like influenza, chickenpox, and typhoid were considered epidemics, and people died like flies at one time. They're no longer fatal. Leprosy, some forms of cancer are curable, unthinkable even a couple of centuries ago. We've eradicated smallpox and polio. Okay. I just want to compare very quickly the pandemics of the past and what we are going through in the present. There are several pandemics, okay? Interestingly, the three that I've put in over here are all traced to China and the start of it in China. And that's probably because the Chinese have been one of the greatest explorers of the world. Though we focus on the Europeans, it's the Chinese who gave us the Silk Route, who actually went far afield. And now also they're planning some big road that connects most parts of Asia and Europe. And but what I want to focus on is the number of people who died. And if you look at the population of that period, the Black Plague practically eliminated the whole population. They say the Spanish flu, half the population was eliminated just 100 years ago. And today, day before yesterday, we've just reached about 0.8 million deaths, all right? So though we don't know anything about coronavirus when it started, we know a lot today, just a few months later. Vaccines are almost ready, medications are almost there. And so we do have to give credit to our scientists for working night and day to give us a comfortable life. But with all these lifestyle comforts, fast communication, travel, air travel that has now reached the common man, robots, artificial intelligence, fast food, these have also been quite detrimental to our health. because we've not taken two very important things into account where we made rapid progress in the field of science and technology. Strangely enough, our immune systems have become weaker, and more importantly, our psychic systems have not been considered at all. When I was a child growing up, even till about 30 years ago, we never heard of children committing suicide. Recently, I hear of 10 and 12-year-olds committing suicide. No child should ever have such pressure that he would want to finish his life. It's the best part of our life to grow up carefree, without any worries. Cast it all on your parents and on your teachers, dear children, and tell them all that you think are big boogies in your mind. Those big boogies are actually just imagination growing wild. As they say, if it is a small problem, get it out of your system, because it just goes on and goes on becoming bigger. So media has played a very horrendous role in spreading fake news, information, and spurring public sentiment. There are riots, unnecessary riots that take place. In the good old days, it was just dialogue and trying to reason things out. And I think sometimes we need to go back to just a few years ago when communication was not that rapid. Cardiac diseases. We never heard of people dying at the age of 25 and 30 due to cardiac problems. And these are all lifestyle problems. I know many children who sleep very late in the night. This is not a good thing. Many of our enzymes are active in the middle of the night. And those enzymes are the ones that produce molecules that should be for our good and not for our bad. I'll give you one simple example. Cholesterol is synthesized in the night and is invigorated by blue light. Now, if you have the lights on and you're playing with your mobile or with your computer, you tend to increase the synthesis of cholesterol. And that, we all know, is the start of our heart problems. Okay? So sleep by 11 and get up by 5. You have 6 hours. Why sleep at 2 and get up at 8? That's also 6 hours, right? You still have the rest of the 18 hours within correct timing. Okay, so we can trace back the ill effects of the advancements in science with the great industrial revolution that probably started around 1712 with the invention of the steam engine. With this great development, the markets became big and countries had to find other countries to sell their products. Colonialization became the in thing because we had to find markets for our products. But with industrialization, with the increased comforts in life, came certain tragedies. Child labor, as you can see in this picture, pollution, as you can see in the next. And with that came global warming. We see a marked difference in the temperatures. You'll say that if you from the time it's recorded, there have been ups and downs in human history of higher temperatures and then lowering of temperatures, the ice age, the melting of the glaciers. But here we are seeing it much faster. We are seeing patterns that we've not seen before. We've seen droughts and wildfires that have not happened, and the sea levels are increasing dramatically. So what's the alternative? Can we do away with all this? Can we do away with electricity? I can't imagine life without a fan. I can't imagine life without my computer, without playing games on the computer and all sorts of things. So then they went to nuclear energy. And nuclear energy is really clean, okay? There's no pollution when nuclear energy is concerned. But like every good thing, there is a bad thing. How to get rid of the waste, okay? Also, all the other waste that we manage to generate, where do we dump it? Some countries have succeeded. We are on our way. Maybe we will succeed someday. And maybe we need you, youngsters, to think up ways of disposing waste, not only on nuclear, all the other waste that we generate. As we walk down the streets of Bangalore, we see so much of waste. Can we do something with it? People do talk about it, but nothing really happens. Maybe you youngsters can get together and think up ideas of how to clear up this waste. That's being a scientist. And of course, the dangers of using nuclear technology too much is all the disasters we've had. And not only nuclear disasters, there have been lots of chemical disasters. Very recently, we had one in Andhra Pradesh, or is it Telangana? But what it leads to is teratogenic and carcinogenic effects. I wanted to put some pictures, but they're really sad. So take it from me that we'd like to prevent all these things. And for all this, we must be more responsible for our use of things that have been discovered. You know, they say that Alfred Nobel was so saddened by the use of his technology of the hydrogen bombing, and he decided, misuse of his technology of the bomb that he created, you know, with nitroglycerin, etc. And he then instituted the Nobel Prizes in his will. And they say that he was also a great poet, and that's why he instituted the prize for literature, apart from the prizes in science. And his main one was peace. Okay, so we look for peace, and we need peace when we do it in a very responsible manner. So I don't want to say that we don't need science. We need science. We've improved so much. We've come from 1950 of a low lifespan of 38 years to almost double, not even 100 years later, thanks to our scientists, thanks to our technologists. So who is a scientist? And this will be my last video before I end, I want to encourage parents to look at some of the lovely videos that you find on YouTube, where you can motivate your children to learning and understanding science. Sometimes we say, oh, this teacher was hopeless, that teacher was hopeless. I myself am learning so much using the internet. Do find nice videos for your children, and do encourage them to become good scientists, so that the world would be a better place, and make people more responsible in using what the scientists invent and discover more responsibly. So who is a scientist? Sit back and let's look at that.
What does a scientist look like? When we think of a scientist, we often imagine a crazy-haired man wearing goggles in a lab coat carrying a test tube in a laboratory. There's a good reason we think this. Albert Einstein was a famous scientist who laid the foundation of modern physics and changed views on space, time, mass, and energy. He is often seen in pictures with wild, crazy hair, making funny faces. If you dress up in a scientist costume, usually you'll look quite similar to Albert Einstein. But is this what a scientist really looks like? In this video, we will explore different types of scientists, what they study, and what they might look like. The pictures and costumes you've seen about scientists usually show you a chemical laboratory because of the cool science tools or equipment. Some tools are magnifying glasses, microscopes, notebooks, balance scales, rulers, and thermometers. A scientist working around potentially dangerous materials does need protective gear, like goggles to protect their eyes, gloves to protect their hands, a lab coat to protect their body in case of spills, and shoes that cover their toes. Safety comes first when experimenting and discovering in science. But did you know there are many types of scientists? A food scientist works to analyze the nutrition in food for safety and the creation of new food products. A hydrologist is a scientist who collects and analyzes water to study issues such as pollution and groundwater. A gemologist studies beautiful gems. They classify gems and discover new characteristics and the physical properties of stones collected in the field. A geologist studies the solid and liquid matter that makes up the earth. They also study forces that shape the Earth's surface, such as wind, rain, and volcanoes, and how they change rocks and landforms over time. An ecologist uses their scientific abilities to solve environmental problems. They investigate anything that affects nature's ecosystem, like wildlife, habitats, and pollution. A paleontologist studies the history of life on Earth as reflected in the fossil record. Fossils are the remains or traces of organisms like plants or animals that lived in the past and are preserved in the crust of the Earth. An astronomist studies objects in the sky, such as stars, planets, comets, and galaxies. A zoologist studies animal life. A botanist studies plants. An entomologist studies insects. An oceanographer studies all aspects of the ocean, from marine life and ecosystems to waves or seafloor geology. A meteorologist studies weather and makes weather forecasts. So you can see there are many different types of scientists, and they all look different. They don't all look like Albert Einstein. But each scientist studies and experiments with the world around us. You can be a scientist too. A scientist sorts, collects, questions, experiments, wonders, discovers, guesses, observes, thinks, invents, tests, classifies, measures, asks, and records. A scientist is you. Here are some activities as we go on our way to be a scientist. Start a science journal. This journal is a way of collecting and keeping track of all your observations and the things you've learned throughout the year. What does a scientist look like? On the first page of your journal, draw a picture of you. What are some things a scientist would wear? What type of scientist would you like to be? What are some tools a scientist might use? Draw and label tools you have learned about. Some examples might be magnets, beakers, or a microscope. It's important to be safe as a scientist. What might a scientist do or wear to be safe? What are the 5 senses? How are our senses important when learning about the world around us? We use our senses, sight, smell, sound, taste, and touch, to work together to let your brain know what is going on around you. They help keep you safe by warning you of any danger. And in your science journal, draw and label the 5 senses. Go on a nature walk. A scientist observes the world around them. Look at the sky, the plants, and the rocks. Use your senses. What do you hear or smell? What do things feel like when you touch them? Record your observations in your science journal. So in conclusion, science rocks. There are so many things to explore in science, so scientists look different. Even you are a scientist, asking questions and exploring the world around you.
So I encourage you children to be scientists, be observers of the world around you. You may not invent things, you may not discover things for a Nobel Prize, but just the satisfaction of bettering your world. Before I conclude, I would like to thank the management for this opportunity. I would also like to thank Ms. Yashaswini and Ms. Jinsey for their continuous support in all the details of this program and helping me out in all the technicalities. Most especially, I'd like to thank my family and my daughter who's sitting next to me for all her help and guidance, as I'm terribly tech unsavvy. Okay, so, and to all of you who are born with me, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Sandra. Students, utilize the chat window if you have any questions to be answered by Dr. Sandra. Now we will go ahead and take some time for questions. I request the moderator, Ms. Brinda, to read out the questions for the resource person.
Thank you, ma'am, for enlightening us to the world of science. Before I start with questions, I would like to say a quote. The science of today is the technology of tomorrow. Here is the first question for you, ma'am. When artificial intelligence becomes everyday life, do you think philosophy is the only science of human being?
Actually, I'm not very sure of the billions of networks that are available in our brain. As far as I know, you can increase them, the old adage. So the more you use your brain cells, the more networking that's going to happen. And that's never ever going to happen with artificial intelligence. Firstly, they're nowhere near the number of networks that exist in any average human being's brain. So I don't think there's any danger of us giving it all to some robot and just sitting and philosophically thinking of the future. There's lots that is there. We are just at the tip of the iceberg. We have plenty to discover, plenty to invent, plenty to know about ourselves and our universe.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Truly said, ma'am.
Yeah.
True, ma'am. Next question is, ma'am, what is the importance of science education in the present world, according to you? What is the importance for science education in the present world? What is the importance of science education in the present world, ma'am?
Science is, at least I thought that my 20 minutes or a little more than that would tell you that science is us, basically, not for us, is us, our questioning. And human beings are by nature curious people, right? So the thing is that education in general in India has gone into a rut, something that the British gave us more than 150 years ago, and we've kind of continued with it. They have changed, we have not. Our teaching has become more of rote learning. I am happy to say that the government has tried to, but unless we educationists try to change, it's not going to change. Okay, and I think there's a lady who won the Best Teacher Award recently. I've forgotten her name. She comes from a village in Karnataka. Gosh, I'm very bad with names. She's won 3 continuous awards. Her teaching and innovation in a government school is extraordinary. Children learn when they do. Children learn when they are left to do things. If we shove it down their throat, they take a natural dislike to it. And science is important, and it is us science teachers who need to motivate and encourage and make them, not only at a science exhibition, but all through the year, discover things for themselves. Our input should be minimum, their output should be maximum, basically.
Yes. So in simple words, we can tell that science is a process that takes us from confusion to understanding.
Yes, but sometimes the understanding may not be that clear if we don't do it correctly.
Okay, ma'am.
It still remains confuses.
Next question to you, ma'am. According to you, what is one of the major upcoming advancement in the field of science? According to you, what is one of the major upcoming advancement in the field of science?
I think everybody wants to live forever, and I think everyone's looking for ways to live forever. But I don't know. I showed you a graph that goes up, right?
Up and down.
But yeah, no, more or less up. It's a straight curve that's going up from 1950 to 2050. But I think my parents' generation lived longer than mine. I don't know about the ones below me, because I've been looking at the newspapers and there are people who are in their 80s and 90s, and there are people who are in their 60s. So I think our major thing is to live good, healthy lives and try to overcome it with the coronavirus and all that is plaguing us. So I
Like
think those
towards
are
the
the,
healthcare industry.
I think
That
so.
was meant.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think we should all remember that technology is the only way to come out of all these things, right, ma'am?
No, I'm not so sure about that. As I said, technology has its great disadvantages and negative sides. We need to be responsible in our utilization of technology, definitely.
Okay. So we can tell that technology is a useful servant, but a dangerous master. We can tell,
Yes.
ma'am, like that.
Yeah, I guess so. You're right.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, then one more question to you is what is the difference between climate change and the global warming? There is a question, ma'am.
Actually, global warming, as I mentioned in my talk, has happened over historically, periodically, right? We've seen, though the Bible talks about the great flood and Noah, it did happen, okay? We don't know about Noah, but we do know that the floods happened. There was melting of the glaciers. This has happened throughout history and several now the geologists have told us this has happened periodically from the beginning of the earth, which is some 4-5 billion years million years ago. So that's global warming. Climate change has taken place because of global warming, so it's part of global warming, and it has speeded up because of pollution. So it's a subset of global warming, and it may not be as natural a phenomenon as it has been historically. There has been man's inputs into it, especially from the start of the Industrial Revolution. Yeah.
So as you're telling, like as we teachers can educate our children saying that Earth does not belong to us, we belong to Earth. Yes,
Correct.
ma'am?
Absolutely right. Yes.
Ma'am, the last question for you here is, how can we inculcate scientific thinking in our children, ma'am? How can
By
we,
Yeah, I heard that. I
yes.
think you want to repeat it for the others. Would you like to repeat it?
Yes, ma'am. How can we inculcate scientific thinking in our children?
Well, I'd say we should start from the day they were born and let them, be their curious selves. A
Yes.
child doesn't fear the darkness. A child does not fear things. It is us
Okay.
elders who don't go out in the dark. There's a boogeyman there. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't, you know, and children fall, they don't get hurt as badly as we do because they don't fall with the thinking of getting hurt. All right. So I
Yes.
think that we shouldn't restrict our children when they're looking curiously at things. We should train them. I'm not saying we should let them go wild and, break everything and do all sorts of things, but definitely we should encourage them. Parents need to encourage them uh, with discipline. Parents need to be the first educators. Then, of course, the teachers in school need to be there to answer questions. We should always be willing to answer questions that a child asks, whatever the
Okay.
question may be. Yeah.
Yes. Ma'am, there is one more question from a parent. What is the scope of pure science in India? As we apply science in demand and giving jobs, India has not developed many industries are connected to science institutions. There is a question asked by a parent.
See, we are looking at 1.3 billion people. We are also looking at a country that has made tremendous strides in the last 75 years. Okay, if you look back at the time the British left us, they left us with nothing. They practically robbed us clean and went. Okay, poverty was well below. I think that the poverty was something like 50 or 60% of people were living below the poverty line. I'm ashamed to say that today there are still about 25% of our population living below, but we have made great strides. It cannot be said that we have not. You know, when I started my science career in the in the early 1980s, there was only IISC, the 5 IITs, and TIFR in the country. Today we have so many science institutes. We have so many technology institutes. We have, so for academics, there's plenty. Look at our pharma industry. We're going to be the biggest producers of the vaccine of corona. So there are jobs, there are opportunities, but for 1.3 billion, I'm not sure. But if you look at it, only 6% of our population is highly educated. 6% of 1.3 billion is next to nothing. And only less than 1% has all the billions in their pocket. Apparently 68 Indians have all the billions, 68 Indians.
Ma'am, and there is one more question to you. Can artificial intelligence be used for learning? There is a question.
Yes, of course it can be used. It is being used already, and it will definitely be used. But we can't say that that's what's going to be, you know, like they said, teaching online is not going to be the only way of teaching. We lose the human aspect, right, which is more important. That's why we are seeing so much of turbulence in the psychological world, which I pointed out, right? Because that's the human touch is more important than just the mental touch.
Yes, ma'am. True. Ma'am, and the last question is related to, we can tell that there is one more question to you, ma'am. 1 second, ma'am. I'll just see it in the chat box. They're asking that, is technology dangerous for humans? They're asking, ma'am. Is technology dangerous for humans?
This is such a see, if we misuse any form of technology, it's definitely going to be bad for humans, right?
Yes,
I've heard of mobiles bursting and people losing their eyesight, but you know, it's rare defects. If you look at the total number of pieces of mobiles that are available in this world, and the number that have actually burst and caused damage, or anything else, even the pressure cooker, why go to the mobile? Even our pressure cookers. How many accidents have we had with pressure cookers bursting or the gas stove gas cylinder bursting? And yet these have made tremendous differences in our lives, right? For cooking, for living in general. So we can't say technology is bad and dangerous. It's how we use it and how responsible we are. That's why I keep on saying we need to be responsible human beings. And that starts from small. So it's parents, teachers, educators that need to drill this into human psyche.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, thank you for answering all our questions, ma'am.
Welcome.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. But I would like to end saying that your last video, which was related to the skill, how the children can utilize that thing for increasing the knowledge in the field of science, it was really good, ma'am. So I would like to tell that the scientist is not a person who gives right answers. He is the one who asks right questions. Today we learned that from your webinar, and it is also very interesting. And there was one appreciation from a parent also stating that that was really because students at right level, they think science is very hard, very hard, very hard like that. But actually you made it very simple for us today, ma'am. And like it is just your PPT showed us like how to explore ourselves in the field of science. And thank you so much for that, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Brinda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your kind words.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Sandra, for the inspiring talk and wonderful session. Now let's once again have the glimpse of few creative experiments and models done by our students. I request Miss Alice to render the vote of thanks.
Gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all others. A very good morning to all. It gives me immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for this event. I, on behalf of St. Joseph's School CBSE and its entire fraternity, first of all extend my most sincere thanks to the God Almighty. I extend a hearty thanks to the resource person for today's webinar, Dr. Sandra Misquith, for gracing this occasion and sharing a thought-provoking talk on the webinar topic, Science for Us. Ma'am, through this webinar, you have ignited a sense of scientific curiosity and interest in all of us. A warm thanks to our rector, Reverend Father Joseph Rodericks, for his constant support and encouragement. A special thanks to our respected principal, Reverend Father Rohan D. Almeida, for providing us this wonderful opportunity and for being the catalyst that stimulated us to do our best. I would like to extend a special thanks to all the judges of the competition who have spared time from their busy schedule and judged the competition with utmost willingness. I extend a heartfelt thanks to the coordinators of today's event, Ms. Jinsi Jimmy and Ms. Brinda, who have worked tirelessly in making this event a real success. Thanks to Ms. Anusha for MC, Ms. Yashaswini, Ms. Rani Williams and Ms. Akshata Koppar for live streaming this webinar. Mr. Praveen, Ms. Sufia and Mr. Anand for PowerPoint presentation. Ms. Selvi and team for issuing e-certificates to participants. Mr. Rajesh and team for designing e-certificates. Ms. Yashaswini and Ms. Lima for Sciplore posters. Science teachers and class teachers for guiding the students and for smooth execution of the event. The event took its shape with your combined efforts. Your days of hard work did bear much fruit today. Our sincere gratitude goes out to all parents, students, and well-wishers for your rock-solid support system and encouragement. Lastly, I thank all the participants whose contribution made Sciplore a grand success. I would like to wind up with a suitable quote during these tough times. Stay positive, better days are on their way. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you for joining us today.